to anybody. I'm not speaking to any mind. I'm speaking to that I am, to that sense of presence that expresses through the mind as the thought I am, just to this and nothing else. So it's cancelled out the student and the teacher, isn't it?
Yes, the very first line you say. Yeah, it is that. But quite often people will just overlook it and they'll try and create more concepts out of it. So it just becomes an unending concept rather than seeing it. The person that said the other night, and I think this is probably the one thing I've heard the most about people who either look at your videos or come here, they'll say, oh, I've got an intellectual grasp of what Bob's saying, but I haven't seen it. And then what would you say to that person then, when they use that label intellectual? Because that is probably the most common thing you will hear.
Well, that's what I say, but why have the label intellectual on it? You know, you understand something or you don't. When you work out 2 and 2 is 4, you don't say I understand it intellectually. You know it. It's knowing. And what's the so-called intellectual understanding?
Yes, well that gets back to the questioner and the question, and the person not seeing that the same source is responsible for both, and the same source is responsible for creating the student and teacher.
And the idea of an intellectual understanding, you're giving it a different sort of understanding, conceptually, haven't you? Again, when you put that label on.
Well, conceptually opposed to what would be my question. So you understand it conceptually. Well, what other form of understanding is there?
That's right. What is it?
There's either you know it or you don't know it. But see, the thinking will come in and say, well, my mind understands it. I think that's what people are trying to say. They're saying, well, I can grasp this as some sort of philosophy, but I can't live like that. As if they have to live in some ultimate state of peace or bliss all the time, which to me seems like total nonsense. You know? This idea that somehow or other, if you understand what Bob's is telling you, you'll somehow be living in a state like above the clouds or something, without any sort of problems or any sort of worries.
They've got a conceptual idea of what that state is, but it's just, again, it's back to that ordinary awareness, isn't it?
Well, on behalf of whom are you asking the question? I'm sorry, I'm really lost.
Well,
You talk about people. What's that all about?
Yeah, well, you'll find that people who listen to Bob or they watch videos, this is what they ask. There was a guy here just on, when was I last here? Thursday. He said that very sentence. He said, I understand what you're saying intellectually, but I don't feel it. I don't feel I am that. So there's still this idea that there is a him, and then there is his intellect. So that is a duality to start with, because there is a him. He's not seeing that the intellect's appearing within him, just like his own body's appearing with him and you're appearing within him. He said then identifies with the intellect as a separate entity and says, well, that doesn't understand what's being said. Instead of saying, well, no, I am everything, including the intellect, and including Bob, and including everybody else in the room is appearing within me.
So the division is only in that label, not intellect, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. The division's only in that labelling of...
Just like, we call God the Supreme Being, we call ourselves human beings. Take away the label Supreme, take away the label human. Can you separate the beings? So, A right understanding, a wrong understanding, an intellectual understanding. Take away all those labels, what is it?
Like, what's wrong with right now unless you think about it? What's wrong with right now, even if you do think about
If
it?
you do think about it, yeah.
Bugger all.
And what intellect is there if you don't think about it?
Same thing.
There isn't one.
So it's the labels, which are words or thoughts, that are the problem.
The interesting thing is we don't try and censor what we're seeing because we know we can't. We don't try and censor what we're hearing because we know we can't. All the senses we allow to function automatically, yet thinking we think we can control. Why is that? Because you think there's somebody there who can control it. And that is the basic trap. That is the root of every single problem you have. Or every seeming problem you think you have.
I think some people do try and control what they see and what they hear. I don't think.
They try to. They think they try to.
Yeah, same as they tried. What's the same as trying to do it to the thinking?
But Bob's pointer, leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected.
Yeah.
Is it? And that applies to anything. And you lose interest in trying to alter it and modify it and correct it. What's wrong with it the way it is?
But even if you do alter, modify and correct it, it doesn't matter anyway.
That's right.
It's only a thought that can do that. It's only a thought that alters it, modifies it, or corrects it.
It's just another thought.
And when you see that the thinker is the thought, all the thinker is a thought, so the thinker is the thought. It's a thought I think. No thought I think, is there a thinker? There is thinking, but no thinker.